Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning. An absolute pleasure to join you today for the very first time to discuss, as has been mentioned, the role of nuclear right now in this renewable energy mix. Many of you who have been following developments in the industry would know that there has been quite a number of changes, particularly in the past year. I make reference to the fact that the World Bank right now has started or signaled a shift to start refinancing nuclear. We've seen private companies as well taking their energy security future in their own hands, with the likes of Amazon building their own modular reactors, as it were, to secure power for their AI and their cloud ambitions. And we've even seen significant tech players, such as the likes of Microsoft, making major announcements and being one of the major companies to join the Nuclear Association, the World Nuclear Association, as it were. And so in light of some of the projections that have been put out there, particularly from the International Energy Agency regarding nuclear demand expected to double by 2050, we ask a very important question right now as to the role that nuclear can realistically play in the renewable energy mix, and what ultimately this does mean for industry, what ultimately this does mean for policy, and what does this mean for the energy transition. And with me are my esteemed speakers and panelists who all wear different but relevant hats, and who will all weigh into this discussion. Beginning with the gentleman on my right, Mr. Alessandro Petruzzi, founder and CEO of Terra Innovatum, who are currently developing modular reactors that can complement renewables and support industrial decarbonization. Good morning.
Good morning, Fifi.
And also have Mr. Richard Sellschop, senior partner at McKinsey and company, who are offering a system-wide view on energy economics right now and critical minerals and deployment pathways. So Richard, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And it is actually you that I want to begin with, so just to help us understand the lay of the land. McKinsey does a whole lot of research in the space, so just looking at a bird's eye view of the renewables landscape and what is going on right now. And we're seeing a whole lot more happening in renewables. We're seeing them coming on the certain grids thick and fast, but also we do know that intermittency of renewables does remain a challenge. In light of this challenge, sir, when you look at renewables, what role do you reckon they can realistically play within the, or nuclear, what role do you reckon nuclear can realistically play within the renewable energy complex?
Great question, thank you. Well, I think the starting point for me is when you look at energy demand, it's growing tremendously, and over the next 20 years or so, we anticipate at least a doubling of global energy demand. So that's the starting point. We need a lot more energy generation. Of course, renewables have many fabulous advantages. Low and reducing costs. We've all seen what's happened to the levelized cost of electricity from renewables, installation costs. The scale of renewables, I think, has taken many by surprise. Many projections just keep on being outperformed. And yet, as you've already touched on, there are some significant challenges with renewables. What's really remarkable here is when you look at nuclear and you look at renewables, it's almost like the perfect complementarity between the two. The strengths of one are the challenges of the other, and the challenges of the one are the strengths of the other. So just when we've got intermittency and firming challenges with renewables, those are significant advantages of nuclear. Cost, of course, is a challenge, but I think what we have to do is when we look forward, it's not just the cost of a particular power source. You really have to look at it at a grid, country, regional scale. And when you do that and you start looking at higher and higher renewables penetrations, you start getting to levels, it varies by country, obviously, in the nature of the grid, but from 60% renewables penetration and upwards, could be 70, could be 80 in some regions, depending on the grid, the cost actually starts getting very high because you have to overbuild in terms of generating capacity. You have to build firming capacity like batteries or hydroelectric storage. and you've got real intermittency challenges. So that's when the costs actually start ramping up significantly for renewables, and that's where nuclear starts becoming quite competitive. So that last 20, 30% of build-out for expansion, nuclear ends up, in our view, making a ton of sense to complement renewables.
Okay, Alessandro, and I'm sure that there are many elements of that response that you'll agree to, but before I do come to you, I would like to welcome one other speaker who will be joining us for this session. Ladies and gentlemen, can I just ask you to help us welcome on stage right now Mr. Xavier St. Martin Tillet. He's the CEO of Orano Mining, and it is a global player across the nuclear field, a cycle which is also central to secure the fuel supply. Xavier, please come through, sir.
Nice to meet you.
And so I will be kind to allow you just to settle in.
Thank you.
To the discussion, Alessandro, and I'd like you to just pick things up for us. As Richard was talking about the complementarity of nuclear with renewables, one picks up for the strengths, one picks up for the weakness of the other. At Terra Innovatum, you're currently developing a solo. I'm sure many people in this room know about it. I'm sure many people don't know in this room about it, but it is a micromodular nuclear reactor. You have said to the market it's set for commercial deployment by 2028. So speak to us about how you are looking at this opportunity, how you think that small-scale nuclear technology can coexist, can complement, and can also balance some of the intermittent challenges that renewables currently present.
Thank you, Fifi, and good morning, everybody. The Innovatum mission is to generate safe, clean, affordable energy through a micronuclear reactor which is providing 1 megawatt electric scalable. Our vision for the future is to have a distribution of energy in all countries that may need to increase the electricity need. And the reason is because we think when we started the construction and the design of the reactor in 2018, we've foreseen that the major issue was the grid. The possibility to extend the grid in already developed country, US, Europe, or in underdeveloped country is a tremendous effort that needs a lot of money and a lot of time. So our idea was to develop a micronuclear reactor that is easy to transport everywhere. Everywhere you have a road, you can reach with our reactor. You can erect the reactor in a short time, and you can provide the electricity as behind-the-meter application. This does not mean that we cannot be connected to the grid and contribute to the stabilization of the grid and to the mix with the renewable, which I perfectly agree is the perfect mix between nuclear and renewable energy, solar and wind. The solution we are proposing is such that we can produce the reactor in a factory, which contributes to the other part of the cost that you were mentioning. Because what the nuclear technology was not able to do so far is to produce the reactor and to standardize the construction of a reactor. Our vessel is very small, it's 2.5 meters diameter, 6 meters tall, and thanks to that, we can produce in a factory. And we can, through the standardization, reduce the cost and timing. Scalability is the last attribute that I would like to talk about. We produce 1 megawatt electric, but thanks to the modularity and thanks to the safety aspects that I may tell you later, we can put several reactors close to each other. So basically from 1 megawatt electric, we can arrive to whatever number of power you need in a surface that is very limited, because being the reactor small and low power, we eliminate the need of an exclusion zone. This means that we can have 1,000 reactor, 1 gigawatt in a surface that is less than half square miles or 3/4 of square kilometer, which is an enormous amount of power in a very reduced surface.
Sure. So it's no surprise that for you the maths does make sense, and you're talking about supplying electricity and energy to countries and jurisdictions that have great need. I mean, I come from the African continent where that is exactly the case, and I come from a country that is also in quite big support of nuclear and the role that it will play, not only for the present, but for the future in addressing some of those electricity needs. And I'm talking about South Africa. Sir, I hope you have had enough time to settle in, because I'm coming to you now. And we are having a conversation, or rather, it's the first round of just setting the big picture. And I want to understand the big picture from your point of view, sir. When you look at the role of nuclear within the broader low-carbon energy mix, alongside the likes of solar, alongside the likes of wind, as well as the hydro, versus the intermittency of renewables, how do you envision that role?
Good morning to everybody, and sorry for having running late. But no, maybe to come back to your question, I think we are discussing about the value of having the proper mix to have the proper solution with a low carbon solution. And I think this is very dependent on the country, the potential of the solar, of the wind, of the hydro of the country. But we can observe, and the data are very clear, that the country having a proper mix achieve to have electricity at a very low carbon level. Currently, we can see a trend, and in fact, we are already moving in the future with ongoing projects. There are something like 50 projects ongoing. Several power plants have been commissioned this year, and the trend is very clear. Today, 40% of the low-carbon electricity is produced by nuclear power plants, and it shows it's relevant, it's important, it's not unique, and the proper combination. And it has to be a decision, a political decision by each country, what is the proper mix, and after how to engage all the industry to deliver this mix. So no, I look at that as a mix. After, according to the country, it can be a large reactor or small and medium reactor, and I think this new offer is very interesting. Us as Orano, we want to be in a position to provide fuel for all type of solution. We see there is a growth. It's happening. The trend is very clear. And so we have to get organized. And many countries have already made their decision and are moving forward.
I know that Orano also does quite a lot of work, sir, in terms of looking at the comparative life cycle carbon footprint. And I'm wondering if you are able to talk to that, the carbon footprint and also the cost profiles of nuclear versus renewables. And just any thoughts that you are able to share with this and what this has meant for investment decisions. And that's you again, sir, Mr. Xavier.
Yeah, again, I think I will not oppose renewable and nuclear. And at the end of the day, it's a magnitude of carbon footprint which is very different from coal, for instance. Okay. We are talking small differences where there is already a very big difference between those low carbon solution versus coal or gas. And when you look at, yesterday I looked at the data of Europe last year, for instance, for last year, all the countries having a good combination of the solution between nuclear and renewable achieve low performance between, I think, in the range of 10 grams of CO2 per kilowatt, where you see some countries running at 500, 600. So at the end, I think the difference is quite significant. And I think the key question is about finding the proper mix and having a long-term view to roll out the industrial program to achieve this mix.
That is the key question. And for any of you, just feel free to opine on what the proper mix does look like in this environment. But Richard, I'm hoping that you can also just expand on that regarding the cost curve. I mean, you made reference to it in your intervention, but when investors are looking at allocating into the space, by way of the data that you're collecting right now as McKinsey, how are they viewing sort of the cost curve, like 2030, 2040, and how is that informing investment decisions?
Absolutely. I think there's a few elements to this. Obviously, recent track record of nuclear builds in some markets like the United States, where I'm based, is not good. Large-scale reactors have been incredibly expensive and exceeded capital forecasts by sometimes up to 2x. However, that doesn't mean that it needs to be that expensive. This is not a question of physics. This is a question of construction and permitting challenges. When we look at other regions, France in the 1960s and 70s, we look at Korea, we look at China, we see what even large nuclear can achieve in terms of costs, which starts getting to be quite competitive. And then, of course, you bring in small modular or micro reactors like Alessandro's been talking about, and that too can be a game changer. The success story in renewables is really an industrial and manufacturing scale success story. And we can see those drivers of reduction in cost in nuclear coming into nuclear. I would also mention two other elements here. One is policy certainty around energy frameworks, national energy policies is really important because, and we see positive signs there. COP28, a lot of support for nuclear, what the US is planning now with the quadrupling of nuclear. This provides certainty and runway so people can actually start building out industrial value chains. And hopefully we see the continuing drop in cost of renewables and nuclear so that overall energy costs are manageable.
Alessandro, can you pick up on the point that Richard made around permitting and what your experience on the permitting environment is like right now, where you see rooms for innovation on the regulatory front, rather, that could accelerate the deployment of advanced nuclear solutions a lot faster alongside renewables?
Yeah, in the US, we are applying our licenses at the US NRC. And thanks to the last changes and push of the administration, current administration, there were a lot of deregulation, but not simplification in the licensing process, in particular in the direction of the micro-reactor, like we are. The period of licensing has been drastically decreased for a construction permit. Now the estimated duration is 12 months. That's the reason why we are targeting our construction permit by June 2027, with operating license in just 6 months. There are still some challenges that are on our side. Basically, we identified 3. One is related to the multiple license due to the presence of multiple reactors on the same site. This is a topic that is under discussion, strong discussion at US NRC and towards the simplification and approval. The second is the insurance liability, because so far the level of insurance is connected with a law that was based on larger reactors, so there is the minimum of 5 million for reactors. And the third element is the remote control of the reactor. In particular, if you want to go to micro-reactor, as we think is the right choice, we need to implement a possibility of autonomous operation of the reactor with a remote control. Otherwise, the presence of several people and several monitoring staff on the site will make the cost too high. Okay. We are confident that all those 3 items are very well known and under discussion, and they will be very soon solved, and we can proceed ahead with the micro-reactor technology.
Well, we wish you all the best, and we hope that your confidence is well placed. But in closing, just in the 2 minutes that we do have left for this fireside chat, can I just ask each of you, if you could remove one barrier today, or maybe tomorrow, that can unlock greater integration between nuclear and renewables, what would it be? And Xavier, I put it to you, sir. I think just try and lift the mic up. Yep. It has, you know what? I'm going to allow time for perhaps maybe a handheld to be brought to him. Okay. It is on the way.
Yes, it works.
All right.
Just, I think what is very important is to have a clear direction and not to change. And I think the direction now is very clear. Several countries have engaged that route. When it comes, for instance, to produce fuel, we need to understand what are going to be the needs and to scale our mines, our factories to what is going to be the need. And I think having a clear will and a clear direction is very important, and it will enable us to deliver effective, cost-effective projects.
Okay. Clear direction, understanding the need and meeting it. Richard, for you?
Very similar one. I think having policy certainty, and yes, it's national energy policy, but it's also support from various stakeholders, obviously within the nuclear industry, but also within the renewables industry. You look at COP28 and the broad support there was there. I think when you got many people marching in the same direction, you can start making industrial plans at the scale that are required and have certainty in those.
Okay, that policy certainty and marching as one. Final word.
I may add, in addition to this, that definitely we need to consider the fuel cycle of each technology. On the same table, we should really see the cost, drawbacks, and advantage of each technology, nuclear and renewable. And in addition to this, I would say scalability and behind-the-meter application I see as a trend that we need to push more in the future, because, as I said before, the real bottleneck of the increased demand of energy will be not the production of energy, but will be the distribution of energy.
Okay.
So the grid.
And it's that bottleneck that we'll unpack in another platform, in another discussion, I'm sure. And I think that all of you have put the case quite aptly that, I mean, nuclear, it's no longer a theoretical debate. It's practical right now. And the question is no longer whether nuclear and renewables can work together, but rather how quickly we can make it happen. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And can I ask the audience just to help me thank them for their time with a round of applause?
Thank you.